Hello, my name's Greg Sizemore, and I'm the founder and president of the Construction Users Roundtable, commonly called CURT. CURT is an organization that focuses primarily on the industrial owner. We share perspectives, resources, and opinions really on best practices regarding safety, workforce, lean, project excellence, one with the other. If you'd like to learn more about CURT, I would invite you to explore our website. It's very simple, CURT.org. And if what you're looking for doesn't come up on the website, feel free to call our office. We'd be very happy to welcome or to help you out. Today, we are so excited to have my friend Brandy Hebert, who was recently the Vice President of Global Engineering Excellence for Estée Lauder. Brandy, welcome. We're glad you're here with us.
Thank you, Greg. I'm so excited to be here, talk about construction, CPG, and engineering in general. So excited for what we're going to get through today.
I am more excited. Let me tell the audience a little bit about Brandy before we get started. As I mentioned, Brandy recently served as the Vice President for Global Engineering Excellence for Estée Lauder Corporation. That company is the world's second largest cosmetic brand, located in Washington, or headquartered in Washington, D.C., but it's a multinational company with projects around the world, frankly. They have over 50,000 employees and annual revenues of around $16 billion. Brandy was responsible for, as the name implies, engineering excellence processes across the globe, owning engineering systems, managing standards, governing global construction processes, and developing innovations. She has spent 25 years in various roles, not only at Lauder, but at Procter & Gamble, Accenture, and in other places. Her resume is impressive. She's led and formed teams to develop breakthrough strategies for her organizations when it comes to engineering. Moreover, and most importantly, Brandy and her husband, Justin, travel the world, and they've moved 6 times with their 3 children and currently fostering 2 children. That gets you points in my book, Brandy. Tells us a lot about you and Justin, and we're so delighted that you're here with us. Let's get started today. And by the way, if you're just joining us, you're listening to Construction Connections, powered by CURT, and our guest is Brandy Hebert, recent Vice President of Engineering Excellence at the Estée Lauder company. Brandy, tell us about your priorities. When you were with Procter and you were with Estée Lauder, what priorities were there in these 2 consumer non-durable organizations with big capital projects, lots of people? How in the world do you begin? Where in the world do you begin to sift through it? What were your priorities?
So when I joined Estée Lauder, one of the key things we were on is a massive growth engine, right? So we'd seen double-digit growth for a number of years, but we grew very in small pods across each of the sites. So my role in engineering excellence, and came from foundations at P&G, was to come in and establish global standards, global hygienic design standards, building standards, program management, and project management standards, so that we could really create a common language amongst our engineering, manufacturing teams, as well as create common systems that would then flow to planning and to our strategy teams. So I have always worked in the intersection of how do we think about commonalities and best-in-class processes to enable business benefit. So excited to do that at Lauder as we looked at we're challenged with huge growth and the need to expand and build both greenfield and brownfield updates across the globe.
How did you establish the best engineering practices? How did you know you were doing it right, Brandy? And how did you communicate that to your team?
Right. So in order to figure out if we're doing it right, we really need to bring the industry experts, so people who are in the business in Lauder, with the external mastery that's doing it the best in the industry. When we think about peer benchmarking with pharma and other CPGs. And we did that through then bringing those teams together. And then you connect in and you say, okay, what are going to be our fundamentals in how do we do hygienic design? And we wrote standards and policies around what were going to be the new Estée Lauder standards that both fit the niche of prestige beauty and the high caliber quality and safety standards that we would see across the industries, both in North America as well as global. because we were trying to set global standards for everything that we would do. So it would feel like this new higher level of capability, capacity, and a feel about the place in terms of what our manufacturing sites were going to look like and our warehousing and distribution.
What do you feel were your greatest challenges in that huge scope of responsibility?
Yeah, it is the marriage between how do we transform and execute at the same time and bringing the whole culture of the organization together. So, as an example, we had the challenge to update 6 of our sites and do major air quality handling construction while the production was going, right? So we had to sequence both ongoing production and major transformation within each of the site. That needed to be done at a site level with global principles, right? Where we would determine what was the work that needed to be done, the sequencing that it needed to happen so that we could continue production in the other portions of the site or within other sites to support the downtime if needed. One of the key challenges of ongoing production with construction happening.
Oh, yeah. Hot projects are always a challenge. So you mentioned that you had industry partners. I think we commonly call those contractors, subcontractors, design folks, etc. What was at both the organizations, Procter and Lauder, and then in your opinion, what kind of qualities, capabilities are you looking for when you engage those quote unquote industry partners?
Yeah.
What are the absolutes and what are some of the variables?
Yeah. So here, Greg, absolutes is safety. Absolutes is safety. It's a no miss situation. So that we're looking for those certifications that the construction teams and the contracting teams are up to date on all of their safety practices, both by certification and by the walkthroughs, right? The Gemba walkthroughs that say they're managing their safety and they're doing it with all the proper PPE fitted, maintained, and supported through their teams because that's a must for getting in the door. And then the second thing I love to look for is the quality caliber of that they know the quality that we need and the best way to construct with that for that quality. So if I need air handling, I want to know that they know the latest ways to do air handling. They're investigating the where we are because air handling trends can be different in Europe versus the US in what kind of equipment people are
Mhm.
selecting and how they're approaching it. And so if I ask that question, I want to hear them being curious and leading in with industry trends that are going to feel our quality requirements as well as meet the future sustainability goals because sustainability goals and how we think about construction are massive because parts of the construction really enable us to be on the forefront of sustainability, which is becoming more and more a requirement for every company out there to showcase the way they're leading in sustainability. So safety, quality, and sustainability, and the really leading leading thoughtfully in the innovation space there where we know newer methods or newer materials or newer practices or devices can help us out.
Interesting. So let's talk sustainability for just a few minutes. You say it's becoming increasingly important. It's also one of the pre-qualifiers from not only your organizations that you've worked with, but others across the spectrum of the industry. What do you see changing? What are the absolutes when it comes to sustainability? It's a little bit like world hunger, world peace. Break that down for us a little bit and help us, and particularly the owners who are listening or the contractors who are listening, understand what sustainability means from your perspective, your experience at Procter and at Lauder.
Yeah. It's probably been about 10 years, but one of the first foundations was LEED certificate. Was really having construction methodologies and the building being designed so that we could be LEED certified. Now, that comes with both the what does it look like as well as what in terms of design, how it's set up, and then how is it set up to be able to deliver against our other sustainability goals, right? So water, waste, like and overall energy, right? Getting to net zero or enabling more of the net zero, that ability to have that conversation with the construction team that knows their impact on this on the building and our overall sustainability footprint as we go. As you know, there are implications in modular design, right? That if we do modular design, we can control a ton of our waste and in byproducts. And so some of those, just hearing that from our owner operators, correct teams, we helps us to say this is one that these people are leading in it. They know their own carbon footprint. And then that helps us to partner with them to then create even better construction site, or like constructions that are going to happen on our sites.
So if I'm a larger contractor and I want to break into this space, I'll call it consumer non-durable space. There's many companies in it. You've worked for two of them, of course. What is the best resource? How do you keep your finger on the pulse of these trends when it comes to sustainability, water, waste, net zero goals, etc.? Do you have a go-to source that helps educate you and your team on expectations? Where does this knowledge come from? And then secondly, how can a contractor or a sub that's interested in supplying services to the consumer non-durable space, how can they learn about it as well? How can they become more well acquainted with the
Mhm.
expectation?
So I'd say start with fundamental training and lead. And then second is you can actually be certified externally on a growth path. And I'll get you that name so you can kind of put it in the tagging.
Perfect.
Where with our procurement team, we are going in and like in order to get into the door, you have to have, and we want to have any of our contractors or consultant teams go through that assessment that helps us say where are they in their journey. So those are two ways to just come in the door. And then the second is if you're leading in that industry is let us know, right? Like be visible on your LinkedIn, on your company website, and showcase the commitment you have. And maybe you're not starting with like everything all at once, but you're saying, you know what? We're going to work on zero waste to landfill, right? We're going to work on a recycling program, and we're going to start to share what are our intentional improvement areas and strategies. And that at least that helps us to see that commitment to progress and continuous improvement. Because honestly, any of the CPGs are going to want to hear continuous improvement because that's what they live and breathe. So when they hear that within their construction partners, it's a win-win because we know that we're going to be doing it together.
So let me go back to the team at Lauder or Procter, or
Yeah.
even your own thought of what an effective team looks like. When you're hiring or recruiting internally or externally, putting together your team for these massive projects, very important mission critical projects to the business, what are you looking for in the capabilities of the team members or of perhaps outside hires that become a part of the team, take one of the roles or responsibilities that you're responsible for delivering? Help us understand how you pull together a highly effective work team to get all this done.
Very, very good question, right? To establish a good working team, one of the things we're going to start looking with is raw capability. Like, have they done a portion? Not 100%, but at least 60 to 70% of the like for like that we're going to be doing, right? And that they are willing and wanting to stretch and learn in the space that they don't know, like, or that is new for them. And
Mhm.
so, and even by like when you're first doing those conversations, you can see the interest of people to learn something new and lead in a new space. So always for me, it's that I want to collaboratively learn to better my company and not just deliver a project for you. Because that means I can have this interaction work this time, and then the next time I'm going to call you again. Right? Right. I'm going to call you again because we're going to have said, you didn't know this, but you were like leaning in. So that's a huge characteristic for me. The second thing I love is I love the people that really fall in love with the business problem. Like, what are we trying to solve and why are we solving it? And that helps me see that they have passion for what they do and
Mm.
passion to deliver the most important things. And you can curate through that so that, and when when they ask me the question, what is the priority, Brandy? They should be asking that question because we are going to have cost, we are going to have schedule, right, and we're going to have money, and if we don't pick one, then we've picked one because we now will have a mess, like we'll have a mess. So we have to always be thinking about what's the priority and how has that team demonstrated that they have either set priorities with their other partners and then worked through them as they deliver. So those are kind of two good foundation principles that I have when I'm looking for the team at the starting point. And then we can talk more about how do you maintain team dynamics as you go through execution, because that's
Ooh, well,
also
let's go there. That's a great follow-up question that I didn't have here.
oh
So
you
maintaining the passion, I think, there are four elements that, we've discussed internally here. Do you have the passion? Are you willing to work hard? Do you have the technical capability? And is it in your wheelhouse? Do you have a natural propensity to solve the problem or to attempt to solve the problem that is at hand here? How do you maintain that moving forward? Help us understand your approach to effective, highly productive engineering teams.
Yeah. Okay, cool thing. Let's talk that. So to maintain or to kind of build a team and then continue the team is really to go back to the engineering work processes of phases, right? Of phases and saying, let's kick off. We're doing a feasibility phase. It's early. We're going to be talking about permitting. We're going to be talking about long lead equipment. And the group of people that are in that dynamics, there's a certain specific skill set that they're in. We're going up to the CFO for approval. So what I like to do is do a kickoff with each phase, whether it be feasibility, design, construct, so that as the team changes from the early upfront designers to now when we're starting to go, okay, bid selections and executions, we're going to do a bit of a re-kickoff, bringing those some same players and some new players together so that we can really kind of regroup around our team has to change through the execution of a project. Let's recenter, meet, make sure that we're all aligned on those priorities that we talked in the past, and then move forward with a celebration of the past is done, and now we move forward into the new. So I like to do those, and then maintain connection on the biweekly or weekly or some depending upon when you get to startup. It's actually daily. Like
Yeah, right.
it's
Exactly.
it's the daily walkthroughs. Manufacturing calls them a Gemba walkthrough, but it's the walkthrough that says, do we have good, like, are we in good shape for today? What's our house cooking look like? How do we give positive reinforcement on safety, on quality, to make sure that both the customer and the construction team are hearing that these things are important, because that will then say we said what we were going to do when we're doing what we said. So that breeds good commonality and usually a good team dynamic.
Great approach. Thank you for sharing that. Let me go back to safety for just a moment. Are you seeing any new trends and safety expectations among your contractors or your subs or even internally with owner organizations? I know there seems to be a constant movement towards zero accidents, zero injuries.
Yeah.
We're never there as long as one person's injured, for example. What new trends have you seen over the last few years, maybe post COVID, which is becoming farther and farther away day by day, right? But what kind of new trends and safety expectations uh, are you folks seeing?
Yeah. 100% always focused on safety from a personal safety, equipment safety, people safety. And yes, having gotten more rigorous in the planning aspect of safety and the pre-walk through, the, the safety related, so the walkthrough or the modeling and simulation that says, okay, like, how are we going to do this in a safe way? So that pre-planning, to me, I've seen a lot more emphasis on that, so that we aren't trying to firefight or solve
Yeah.
something or have the near miss in the middle. And so I've seen a lot of that in the safety space. I also see that we're seeing some, like, as COVID came, we're getting more safety related, like air handling, to do more air handles to keep the air cleaner, right? As one
Mhm.
element. But then we're also having, when we were doing the masks and the glasses, we had to change up our PPE a little bit because you couldn't wear a mask and glasses and actually see them unless you got the new anti-fog glasses, right? So we're seeing
Mhm.
some changes and adaptations in just personal PE to help people work with in the construction space in a safe way while wearing a mask if needed. And I thought that was a real important one for many things, because people were not wearing their safety gear because they couldn't see, like, couldn't see.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So true. I'm glad that's behind us.
Yes, me too.
Um, let's talk modularization. That is another one of those big words which means different things to different people. How have your organizations in the past engaged in modularization as maybe a workforce strategy, a productivity strategy, a safety strategy? And how has the design of the project affected the use of modularization on some of your larger capital projects?
It's a good question because, and I think it was about 15 years ago that I really started to see us invest in modularization and the business need, right? Fall in love with the business problem. For us at that time, it was about less downtime in the site, in ongoing site production. Because when you're stick building versus when you're dropping in a pipe, there's a difference in how much time that takes.
Mhm.
When you're dropping in a full, I've done a lot of kettle installations, right? So the modular skid build of the kettle when it's pre-assembled versus again trying to do it live is just significantly less downtime for the manufacturing site. And time is money in a manufacturing site. Time
Oh, yeah.
and so many times I've seen us actually do the full startup of something in a warehouse before it comes into the site because then it means that we know everything fits. The construction team, right, changes their work a little bit. Sometimes they're doing it twice in the warehouse and in the site, but the total downtime to the manufacturing organizations is much, much less. So that brings a huge value in modularization. The
Yeah.
other,
How,
so we
how-
pause for a
yeah, I'm
second.
sorry. How did it affect? We're good. We're good. How did it affect the design of the project? Like we want to use modularization for all the reason you stated.
Mhm.
How does that how does that affect the design of the project?
So, A, you have to decide that from the beginning, right? That is a
Yes, that's what
key
I'm digging
critical
for. Yeah.
decision because, and you're going to be doing some very intensive design reviews because you need to be able, and likely building it and planning more time for the offline build. Like if you're building a full skid module, okay? If you're building the whole thing ahead of time, you need to plan that time, but then you reduce your time in the actual site. The second way I've seen modularization play out is by using more digital tracking and devicing by
Mm.
actually marking pipes, right? Like designing it, building it, and marking pipes. And so it has required better organization of your materials and better ability to really verify that you're using the right pipe because each one is specifically made, right? Imagine using it's like the Lego set that has all the parts and the bag has every piece you need. Like you're not hunting through 20,000 pieces to find the one
Yeah.
you want. So that sets us up to have a little bit more time invested in the front to make sure we've sequenced the parts correctly, but much less time at the in the field because we know we have everything that
So, are you a big advocate of the use of modularization in pre-assembly?
100%. I think it's
Yeah.
just it's so critical for anything that is requiring us to do to come in with speed execution. Right?
Yeah.
It's speed execution. It both and it should manage both our and reduce our overall waste too because you're not guessing what you need. You know exactly what's needed to construct.
Let's talk the ubiquitous problem of workforce shortages, whether it's in the field with craft workers or in the office with talent, construction managers, superintendents, supervisors, owner representatives, etc. How have you addressed the challenge that everyone is seeing with workforce shortages throughout the organization? What
Mhm.
have been some of your approaches and what have been some of your definitions and maybe some of your mitigating strategies?
Yeah. Um, Couple ways we take a look at this. First is you got to start with internally, what's your culture? What's your culture for the organization? Do they feel like they are on the critical job? Do they feel like they're doing something that they are uniquely skilled for and they will continue to grow in it? Right. Like, so to me, that the culture of the organization and feeling like you're a part of something that is transformational. I'm going to be a part of a $1 billion expansion build in Japan. Very inspiring for people to see a part of that because it's going to grow our business from 12 billion to 16 billion. People see
Mm.
that, they find their vision and they say I was a part of that. One way for us to like really focus on people seeing that they can see their path of growth. When I accomplish this, I've never done a project management part on this. Acquire a new skill. I will be readying myself for the next level so they can see growth within the company. And I think that becomes really important. And the second way is when we know that something is not a skill within within the company that you work for, but it's a construction set skill or it's a contract skill, then we want to know that we're hiring that with an organization that's doing the same thing but in their niche, right? We're hiring the construction team that is promoting their team from within. We're hiring the construction team that's championing the growth in their individuals because that then people see a reason to come in, a reason to stay, and a reason to continue. I think that's we do see there are companies that niche specific talent because those people love to do that work, whether it
Yeah.
be the company that likes to do master planning or the company that likes to do design. Their core work is design reviews, right? Like their or cost estimating. Sometimes we like those where if you don't have internal mastery, you find a really fantastic consulting or contracting team that does that because they breed the growth because their people love the work.
Interesting. So, one of the challenges, as you and I were discussing yesterday, the severe lack of women in the industry, whether it's at the skilled trades side, the engineering side, wherever. Statistics have varied between 11 and 14%. 5, 10 years ago, they were at 11 to 14%.
Flat.
I was talking to friends of mine at the university level, and some of them indicate it's hard even to attract females into an industry that's been culturally dominated by men. How do you break the barrier there? And what opportunities do you feel there are for women these days in our industry? And maybe what ways has the industry failed that segment of the population? And just talk to us a little bit about improving the workforce shortage by being more attractive, and not only to women, but
Mhm.
to minorities as well, and other demographic segments. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, a couple thoughts here. I think with this one, like we talked yesterday, our numbers aren't high in terms of women in construction, women in engineering. And what we need to do is continue to foster that even at the youngest of ages. Like one of the things we didn't talk about yesterday is I was thinking about it. I was like, my father's a plumber. I grew up with going with him to the plumbing, to the shop where he went. I could, the smell, the machine oil smell, like, this machine oil smell. So I grew up knowing what that was. And when we built something, when we did a house expansion, my dad did it. So we were out there thunking with him. So for all of us, it's like, how can I work locally, work with the schools, with the Girl Scouts, the Boy Scouts, and with my own kids to really just
Mhm.
include very gender equally everybody. And these are fundamental things that they should be able to be exposed to. And when they're exposed to them, then it doesn't make it such a big leap to jump into the engineering or the constructing
Right.
like roles. And, so I think that's one is just let's give our youth more exposure doing the STEM days, doing the construct days, because I think that will help them see themselves in there. And then second, we definitely see some trends, especially in the mastery space. Of more women in um, construction construction management, safety management, overall, localized like bigger areas where they can get to the floor and back. We see some where we're seeing more some office builds, and the data shows women in construction are often in the office. They spend a couple of years in the field and then they hit the office. That's nothing wrong with that. That's they can bring mastery with that background of I've been to the floor, I've done the construction, and now I do the project and program management, making some of the big leaps. And I think even showing people that's very natural to do. It's natural in manufacturing. When you start in manufacturing, you start with your feet on the floor in process engineering,
Mhm.
and then you work into bigger and more global roles. But I think they don't think that in construction as much. They think they're going to be out there, out on the floor, out in the construction space for a long, long time. And sometimes it's not true. So it's giving them those paths of what do I want to do in construction.
So, Brandy, it's one thing to attract them. We deal with this, as I shared yesterday, at the University of Cincinnati, which has some marvelous outreach initiatives for females and other minorities. There's a lot to attract them into the business, and they do come in. What do you feel are key to retention? And are there some things the industry needs to respond to? For example, we talked wearables yesterday.
Yes.
Simple things like, potties and porta johns and daycare, proximity to daycare facilities, or even providing. What are some of the barriers and what are some of the needles that just push them out of the business? Some of the barriers that the industry needs to work on, in your opinion?
Yeah. So I'm going to repeat what you said. Folks, I'm 5'1", and I've worn more extra large size safety reflector vests than anybody has the right to. Okay. And so, and it's that, and it's also like the strap on toe clips, right? Like those are not meaningful and they're actually more risk, right? So let's
Hmm.
provide for guests and for the real and for employees the right safety equipment that fits. That just helps you to say, hey, I invited you to the party and now I'm going to give you, the right things that you're going to know what to wear, right? So that's easy. Then there is and I said, like, I've grown up in engineering. I've had managers and mentors, mostly men, that are extremely humble and willing to teach me and willing to teach when I ask. And so both from both sides of it, it's creating that humble spirit that people that we are a place where we're going to teach you. If you don't know how to, how the drill works and what's right, clockwise and counterclockwise, well, you can learn that in about 30 seconds, but you just may have
Hmm.
never had that opportunity. You might not know the difference between different types of Loctite. Those are two examples that I was like, what is Loctite and what does it do? And I had great mentors that walked me through that. And they held my hand as we built whatever the construction was and they walked the Gemba walks to say, this is safe, this is unsafe. Why is it unsafe? Because that learning while doing mentorship that is provided by older managers with more experience or people who've been around it is super meaningful to help people feel like they can ask the questions and they will not be scoffed at. They will just
Yeah.
be trained and taught, with the expectation that then they train and teach the next group of people as they come in. So I think those are two ways to just kind of either create learning moments very structured or create learning moments that are just very casual and as part of the company culture. And I think there are several organizations that help support that.
One of the elements that has been added to the narrative over the past few years when it comes to mentorship is not only mentorship, showing you the ropes, helping you with the culture, but also being your sponsor. Difference between mentorship and sponsor. Sponsor is more of an advocate almost, advocate for training, advocate for certifications, advocate for inclusion, advocate for learning. So I think the sponsorship part of mentorship is another element that we could take more seriously to retain not only the women but the guys too. Guys leave this industry as well, and I think sponsorship's a part of it. Maybe it sounds like you had not only mentors but true sponsors of who you were and where you wanted to go.
Yes, I think mentorship comes from various places, right? Like when you think of peer mentors are great, and mentors and or leader mentors that help you to learn, right? In sponsorship, those are the people that should be looking at you and saying, "Hey, Greg, we're going to pull you out. Where are we going to pull you to, right?
Right.
Are you going to be, we don't have as many sponsors. We shouldn't need as many sponsors, but you should have 2 to 3 people that know your name, know what you want to do, or and if you don't know what you want to do, they're helping you to kind of curate a couple of ideas.
That's a
um,
great point.
it is so meaningful. It helps them feel valued
Yeah.
as an employee, that somebody's watching out for them, and that, like you said, male or female, that's
You
valid in both. It helps with retention and it helps them to grow.
Yes, yes. That is important, extension of the HR function. HR can recruit, retain, onboard, and get you signed up and whatever, but that's only half the battle is getting you in the door. What you've just described, I think, is absolutely powerful. When relationships are strong, when relationships are loyal, when they accomplish more than what the candidate expects the mentor to provide, I think you get buy-in so that when things get challenging, rough, and you get on the thin ice that every project has, there's probably a greater tendency for staying power, opportunities certainly for encouragement, uh, with the mentor-mentee sponsorship relationship. That's a great point you make.
It's absolutely true. And I want to just add something because I think
Please.
I spent a lot of my career thinking that I had to work in the 4 walls that I was in for my mentors and for my sponsors. And I think, but the industry is a great place for mentors and
Mhm.
sponsorship. So CURT,
Yeah.
like with its idea is fantastic, in terms of saying, hey, how you doing this? Like, how are you doing this? What's going on in your area? And or you can go on LinkedIn and we can learn from others in the digital, the devices, if you're into the science and tech, into the building and construction. So we don't have to make ourselves small within our own company. We can make ourselves broad to learn from others in the industry, and it will only should accelerate both parties. In that is usually really good for.
That is so important. Thank you for making that additional point. You mentioned the word tech about 4 or 5 times over the course of the last 40-ish minutes.
Yeah.
Let's talk about technology. Boy, oh boy, AI is like the wild, wild west. Everybody's in their wagon headed out to California hoping to find the mother lode. And most will end up in the Mojave Desert wondering where they are. Talk
Hmm.
to us about how technology is transforming the way we work as managers, as engineers, and even as contractors. From your perspective, what role does technology have in the future course of events in our businesses?
Hmm. So technology, when we think about the first machine age, right? We're in the second machine age where we're getting more digital, more data, more
Yeah.
devices. We should be automating all tasks that are repetitive because nobody really wants to do them. So thinking through what is the workforce transformation, what are the technologies that can help us, and whether that is, like I said before, printing a 2D barcode on a sticker and putting it on a pipe, or laser etching it and then scanning it. Like that verifies that this part goes in this space. So that's just one way you can use
Mhm.
technology to help enable construction. Another way we need to use technology is it needs to be our new best friend.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we are getting data systems where we can gather, oh, here's 15 construction projects we've done in the past. How do we use our own archives or the archives of the industry to learn using AI, using an agentic AI that either can create and say, hey, do a peer review on this design, construct, build for me. What are the ebbs and the flows? What's this that what's an estimate of timing? Because it should be able to start to predict those items if we begin to feed data into it. Now we have to take time to invest to put data into the systems. And as we do, asking it clarifying questions, it should pull out and start to predict some really brilliant ways that we can intersect and learn about, whether it's give me 4 different ways to do this build and we're going to talk through them, right? It can create some of those ideas for us using the AI systems that are out there and starting to come to life. I think you have one coming to life, right, Greg? I like.
Yes, we do. What a great tee up. I was just thinking about that. So it's called the CURT Solutions Portal,
Mhm.
and it's powered by a platform called Commodore. And we have taken over the last several years every single bit of information, every element of the CURT's body of knowledge, including PowerPoints, national conference presentations, white papers, benchmarking surveys, news or magazine articles, over, I think, 30,000 individual pieces so far. And we've put them into an AI machine called the CURT Solutions Portal. And you can learn more about that if you go to CURT.org, or you can call the office and ask questions on it. But it's designed to be a CURT consultant, pardon me, a CURT consultant in your pocket where you can ask it things. We also have it prevents hallucination. We've
Mhm.
eliminated that, and it also helps the agent also helps you ask a better question. So if you give it one question, it will begin to help you ask a better question, and then provide all of that. The OSHA standards are in there also, so we've correlated our safety blueprint to OSHA standards. It's just a cool, cool tool, and it's in its first generation, its first iteration. And we invite those of you who are interested to get in touch with us, and we can tell you more about the CURT Solutions portal powered by Commodore. And yeah, yes, we're off to the races on that. It's getting rave reviews by our beta testers, and we're excited to deploy it on a more broadly here shortly.
Love
You're
it.
listening to the Construction Connections podcast powered by CURT, and we have been delighted to entertain today's guest, Brandy Hebert. And she, again, is, if you're joining us late, listening in the middle of the podcast, Brandy was recently the vice president of engineering excellence at Estée Lauder Companies, and she has been a wealth of information for us. Brandy, as we begin to wind down, first of all, we want to thank you for taking time out of your very busy day to be our guest. It's been a joy. Is there something you wanted to share with our audience, or perhaps as a final thought, a question you thought I would ask that I haven't asked yet that you would like to address, just take the next minute or so and share with us what you think we need to know about this wonderful industry where we've all cast our lot.
Construction is vital, right? So like first I fully was excited when you said, "Hey, let's do this." I was like, "Yeah," because construction is how um we grow. Whether we're building houses, buildings for manufacturing, like office buildings for new businesses. Like so we will have construction and it is booming. And so to me, like it's a perfect time for everybody to be really investing in what are like in the construction space, what are the I say tech, right? What are the work systems that we're doing and how do we begin to transform them? So it is time, yeah, like time to do that transformation and time to explore what will be how is the second machine age impacting construction, because using the AI like you have with the setup with the Commodore, like that's so meaningful because it will help us create standards that we didn't have before. Like we will not be guessing what the standards are. We will have a library of standards that will tell us exactly how much light we need and exactly what are the airflows that we need, because it will be based off of this body of knowledge that is continuing to grow. So for me, like I like so believe in the power of working this together for the common good of everybody, because there is more than enough business out there to build and construct across the globe, and we will keep doing that for years and decades to come. So I'm very excited for how construction is going. It's really good news.
And this industry has a real gem in the person of Brandy Hebert. It's been a joy. Again, you're listening to Construction Connections, powered by CURT, CURT.org. We'll give you more information on the things talked about today. If you have other questions you'd like to present to us or explore, any questions about our organization or how to get in touch with Brandy, just feel free to get a hold of our office. We'd be glad to help you out. I would like to take just a moment and mention our upcoming virtual sessions. We have a set of virtual meetings addressing safety and workforce on April the 8th of this year. And so we invite you to explore the CURT website and see if those sessions interest you. I think it's safety in the morning, workforce topics in the afternoon, or maybe it's vice versa. Anyway, the website will know more about it than I'm able to share right now. Thank you so much for listening. Brandy, thank you for being our guest. And we'll see you on the next episode of Construction Connections, powered by CURT.
Thank you so much, Greg. Have a wonderful day. And to the community at large, keep building. We need you. And I'm very excited for the next. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Brandy.